Now, there's a strong police presence outside Parliament. That's ahead of Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's budget speech. He'll present the budget at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Godongwana faces a tough task, balancing the needs of the economy and appeasing the nation. Let's cross live to Rofhiwa Madzena, who's out in Parliament. Rofhiwa, many competing national spending priorities today. Honestly, I don't envy the minister.
It's a very big day for Minister Enoch Godongwana, who will be delivering his maiden budget speech, national budget speech, later on this afternoon. A tough balancing act that the minister has to do with the little money that the country currently has. I've actually got Wayne Duvenage of Outer joining us now to talk more about the national budget speech and really where the minister is going to be getting money from for the different commitments that were made at the State of the Nation address. Wayne, what do you think his priority area should be?
Well, I think first of all, he needs to continue in the vein that Tito Mboweni was around trying to cut the high costs of government. There's a lot of misspending. There's a bloated government. The public wage bill is heavy, so we hope that he's going to address that. And then obviously there's this need to invest. So there's the investment fund that is going to be discussed quite a bit. But what we're hoping is that there's not going to be a lot more pressure on the public. We're hoping that there's not going to be an increase in fuel levies, although we do sense that there might be a little bit of relief trying to allocate funds from fuel levies towards the e-toll debacle, which has been going on for 10 years now, was announced 10 years ago, this day almost, when Praveen Gordhan said they were proceeding with a failed scheme. It has failed, so there might be some announcement around that.
Right. Talk us through this investment thing, which you're absolutely correct, he'll make reference to quite a bit, as has been done previously. How do you garner investment in a country where there's very little incentive to do so at the moment? Two big things that come at the top of mind would be the provision of sustainable water and electricity supply.
Yeah, look, they're going to have to do something about Eskom's debt, because if they don't remove that debt from Eskom, those costs get passed on to Eskom's customers, which is everybody in business, and that's pushing up the cost of doing business. So we think there has to be some announcement on relieving Eskom of some of its debt, the state taking ownership of that debt. But when it comes to big infrastructure projects, and you're quite right, water is our next biggest problem in this country, and roads, as we know. Roads are going through a massive problem, especially regional roads where money is not being well spent. And I think the problem with investment is how that money is managed, and there are a lot of barriers in the way which make it difficult for these projects to get off the ground. So they've got to deal with that, the administration side of it, but at the same time they've got to deal with the fact that the amount of misspending that takes place. I think we pay 2 to 3 times per kilometre than what we should be paying in this country. We have had a problem with this regard, and then the quality of the construction work is a problem, so the roads don't last, and so on. So we've got a lot of work to do in accountability, and I think this is where we heard in the SONA, and we see it in the Zonda report, that civil society needs to become a lot closer, or government needs to get a lot closer to civil society, so that we can have some oversight, so we can raise the flags when we see the problems.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring up this issue of the social impact, because this is something that probably should have been done years ago, and it's only been seen now that government actually can't do everything on its own.
Yeah, it can't, and the sad thing is that civil society has been giving a lot of input for some time now. Recently we've raised another concern around government, especially in the Department of Transport, hiding behind efficiencies in doing stuff online, but what they're doing actually is pushing the cost up by over 300% in vehicle licensing and so forth. The whole driver's license debacle, which should have been extended to a 10-year renewal, not 5 years. So we've got a lot of input, we've got a lot of solutions. The problem is that if government doesn't want to listen, if they want to have this ostrich mentality and put their head in the sand and believe that they have all the answers, then the social compact that the President speaks about will never get off the ground. So we need to get closer. We agree with that. We're not government's enemy. I think they often see their critics as their enemy. We all want a well-functioning government, but they need to start listening and taking society into confidence.
No, absolutely. I mean, earlier on you mentioned the fact that the minister shouldn't put any more pressure on South Africans, maybe increasing VAT or personal income tax and whatnot. But what would you say about corporate taxes and the excise taxes? Should they be left untouched as well, just to give incentive for the businesses that are trying to recover from the pandemic to continue to try and navigate the current economy.
Yeah, I think we heard in the Sona speech the President speaking about business is the engine room for job creation, and he's quite right. Government needs to be an enabler, make sure that people are not exploited, that fair competition takes place, and make it easy for business to happen. That's what he spoke about. Now we need to see that, and I think it would make sense for government to start reducing the pressure on business, reducing corporate taxation, because the more corporates earn, the more they plow in back into investment in this country. Obviously, we've got to make sure that there's no exploitative profiteering, and that's the biggest problem. Sometimes we see that business does business in a way that really does circumvent the need to be responsible, to put in sustainable long-term planning in this country. So let's see what happens. But yeah, putting more pressure on businesses is not the right way to go.
No, absolutely. I mean, just a final thought from you, from all the themes that we've just discussed now. Do you find, or are you confident that there is enough political will to make these things happen? We can make all the pronouncements in the world, but if the will isn't there, then nothing gets done.
Well, exactly. Implementation has been a struggle for government for a long time. I think with the 2024 elections 2 years away, there has to be political will, especially for the ruling party, because they're running out of time. They have to make an impact, and they have to be seen to be doing so meaningfully and not just lip service. So hopefully implementation will start happening now and not just lip service.
No, absolutely. Wayne Divinage, as always, thank you for joining us on eNCA. From out of there, talking us through the predictions for the budget speech that will be delivered later on today, and really just the priorities that the Finance Minister should be focusing on to stimulate and to grow the economy, and of course, very importantly, create jobs as well.
All right, Rofhiwa, we'll leave it there for now. That's Rofhiwa Madzena.